Earlier, I spoke with Taiwan's representative to the United States, Ambassador Tah-ray Yui. Sir, nice to see you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Greta.
You know, Taiwan has a rich history, and a lot of people in the United States probably haven't looked at a map. But I looked at a map just this morning, and what actually surprised me is that there's some areas where Taiwan is like a mile from China.
Yeah. We have islands that are basically literally off the coast of mainland China. You can see China from our islands. But it's been like this for 70 years. Yeah.
Are you afraid that China's going to invade Taiwan, or do you just think China's just basically saber rattling?
No, well, saber rattling they have been. They actually tried in the early 50s to take one of the islands that you mentioned. They didn't, but they couldn't, and they've always been ever since trying to, huffing and puffing and trying to bring our house down by taking Taiwan as their own, which I stress they never ruled Taiwan, they never administered Taiwan, they've never had presence in Taiwan. So their claim on Taiwan based on historical, issues, it's unfounded because they don't rule Taiwan. But they want to have it as their own, because they want to spread their ideology into our people too, and that's something we refuse to accept. Fortunately, we're not Hong Kong. Hong Kong was a UK colony that was given back to the Chinese in 1997 because it was a colony, a UK colony. But in our case, we're sovereign independent. There was this, communist revolution that caused all this commotion, and the nationalist government had to resettle on the island of Taiwan. And since 1949, that's been the situation. So that the status quo that we talk a lot about these days is that the People's Republic of China are on the mainland, and the Republic of China is on Taiwan. And that has been like this for 77 years. And that they're trying to change the status quo by trying to take over. But the invasion possibilities are real because they've been militarily building up for the last decades, and now they have a really, really mighty army, and just second to the U.S. So they are very, very powerful, and that's why we're getting a lot of these threats, and that's why Taiwan needs to buy the most modern arms possible to defend ourselves.
And Taiwan is about the size of the state of Maryland.
Exactly.
And has the population of the state of Florida, about 24 million, about the same. And that would be like that size country and that population taking on China if China would suddenly invade it.
Yeah. Well, but, the problem is not Taiwan, but the problem is the People's Republic of China, the Chinese Communist Party. And they're an expansionist, they want to expand their ideology, and they want to reach Taiwan. But the people of Taiwan, we are, we persevere. We want to keep our way of life as is, and we will not budge. And we looked at the example of the brave Ukrainians. Again, it's a much smaller country than Russia, but yet they've been defending themselves very well for the past 4 years. So it's not that because they're big, they will be take over Taiwan easily. At the same time, the problem is the CCP. It's not the people of China, and I think they see also Taiwan as the Chinese Communist Party sees Taiwan as a problem because Taiwan is a democratic, system, which is a threat to them, to the CCP, because it's showing the Chinese people that there's an alternative, actually a very good alternative to the autocratic way of government in China.
Well, if China wants, the Communist Party wants Taiwan so badly, and this goes back to about 1949, and they do all that saber rattling, they do military exercises, they do all these threats, why haven't they?
Well, because militarily, it's not that easy. They always refer to or compare to the Normandy invasion because they have to cross. Well, the island of Taiwan is actually 160 miles away from the Chinese coastline. So for them to stage an invasion into Taiwan, it's not an easy operation. But they've been building up. They've been doing this the biggest military buildup in peacetime history, I guess. It's as large as Napoleon, as large as Germany before World War II, or probably larger. And they have big ambitions. But their ambitions are not only Taiwan. I've said it before. Taiwan is just the stopper that will release the genie. So Taiwan is just the first step towards the larger ambition of spreading China's influence beyond the First Island chain, beyond Indo-Pacific. And they've even sent flotillas, naval flotillas to Australia last year and circle around Australia and had live fire exercises off the coast of the city of Sydney, just to show that they can do that.
Well, the President Trump was just recently
Right.
in China, which of course you know, and of course there's the issue about weapons that
Right.
that Taiwan wants from the United States. How do you view that trip to China by the president now that it's over?
Well, again, it's good that the two leaders talk to each other. There are a lot of issues, pending issues between the two, trade issues, technology, geopolitical problems all over the world, Taiwan including. So for them to talk to each other and try to prevent any misunderstandings, miscommunications, I think it's a good thing. But from what we know now is that President Trump, there were a lot of issues that they wanted to raise, but Xi Jinping kept talking about Taiwan. And but from what we know, we've been told, the United States has been firm on maintaining the longstanding position on Taiwan. There's no change. There's been just as soon as yesterday, there's still official declarations from the United States saying that there's no change in the standing policy on Taiwan based on the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 communiques, and the 6 assurances.
Is it fair to say, though, in spite of that, and in spite of the history, and in spite of China's, the Communist Party's statements about Taiwan, that you're worried?
Well, of course, we worry because there's always somebody, next door trying to intrude on our house and take over. But again, I also made an analogy earlier that it's like we feel the threat from an intruder. We want to improve our safety of the house, our alarm system, but the intruder starts to complain that because of what we're doing to the house, in spending more money on our alarm system, is making his job more difficult. So.
What do you think you're going to get the weapons from the United States?
Well, again, United States has been our main source of weapons purchase origin. And it's been that for many decades. And actually, President Trump has been, the one who has sold the most weapons to Taiwan, including his first administration. He sold around $18 billion to Taiwan, and the current administration so far is over $11 billion, especially the one announced late last year. So based on the threat that we're receiving from mainland China, I think it's commensurate that we need to continue to beef up our defense, especially with the Ukraine situation. You see that the battlefront is different from traditional way of doing war, especially with the unmanned systems. So we need to beef up, modernize our defense according to the asymmetric warfare because of a smaller contingency against a much larger aggressor. So we need to continue buying arms, and also again buying arms for Taiwan to be able to buy arms. It's in the United States' interest because a stronger Taiwan actually lessens the chances for the Chinese to be able to attack Taiwan because we're strong. And again, we believe in peace through strength. And that's what my president just yesterday also made mention of this, that we would like to continue be able to buy arms from the United States because it will make us stronger.
Sir, thank you very much for joining me, and I do note and appreciate you have America 250, so you're celebrating with us, and I thank you, sir.
No, we're celebrating America's 250, but also celebrating 30 years of direct presidential elections in Taiwan. So we value our democracy just as well as yours, so we celebrate together.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Greta.
People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.